Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larosiliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Adam Hicks from Cooper Development. How you doing, Adam?
Good. How are you, Steve? Good to be here.
I'm well, thank you. I'm excited to have you on. Hey, tell us about Cooper Development. What do you guys do?
So Cooper Development started as a way for me to solve my own problems. So initially, after leaving, I was a portfolio manager, and prior to that, I was a trader in the finance world. I purchased some real estate as investments, and a lot of these properties needed fixing up and renovations and repairs. And I was so shocked from going from sort of a Wall Street environment to Main Street environment in terms of business acumen, accountability, reliability, et cetera. So in purchasing some of these properties, I said, specifically with one large loft in New York City, I decided to, after 2 weeks of a bad experience with my contractor, I decided to take it on myself and learned a lot. And after cutting off the power to the neighbors and flooding the downstairs art gallery, it was a great education. But that was about 14 years ago. And since then, I've gone from just servicing my own real estate to starting Cooper Build, which is a customer-facing general contracting and millwork operation in and around New York City and the Hamptons.
Awesome. And how are you in Miami? Just split time between New York and Miami?
So getting back onto the Cooper Development side, we're starting a project down here to develop some land in a town called Cutler Bay and build hopefully what will be somewhere around 100 units.
That's amazing. So you've been around for 14 years. You were a former Wall Street guy who had a bad experience with his builder in a real estate transaction. You started doing it yourself, and you realize that there's some efficiencies and an experience that people could probably that could be better improved. And so that's how you started?
Exactly. And, I think in the beginning, I looked at it sort of as a business analyst, and, I just kind of assumed there were just excess margins and a lot of the things and the activities that I was being sort of quoted for. I think as I've gone on in the business, I've realized I've been a little humbled, and, some of the costs are significantly more than I initially had thought. And so, as sort of an owner operator, you're constantly trying to just manage the cost, drive as much value to the clients. And because renovating in New York City just can be very expensive undergoing.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
And what was the first big project that you realized that you did, aside from when you finished your loft in New York City? Like, what was the project after that? Because I'm sure you solved your own problems, right? And like, what was the next thing where you're like, okay, this is what I really want to be doing? And how did you transition out of Wall Street?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So, after '09, the Fed was just basically adding liquidity to the market sort of every day.
Yeah.
And the market became, and from what I did, which was sort of a more volatility driven structure, it became sort of boring or less. My strategy was sort of less effective. And I always loved real estate, but sort of owning real estate in New York City was always sort of a little bit out of reach. And I finally
Hmm.
got to the point where I could, purchase and afford to purchase some things. And then there was the crash in '09. So that actually allowed me to pick up some things relatively cheaply.
Hmm.
And then from there, once people saw what I was doing and I was interacting with a lot of tradespeople, slowly friends or people I knew, some architects I knew said, "Hey, can you help out with this smaller type project?" Or we have this type of, we need some work in this townhouse or whatever. And then I slowly took it on and built out, a team around that, which, was a big learning curve, especially not having come from the trades.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did you learn? Was it trial by fire and you had enough sort of time and opportunity to keep learning, or did you get some help?
Yeah. So, as an analyst, like on Wall Street, you have to ramp up on companies and industries very quickly and
Yeah.
kind of almost become an expert on something that you may not have a lot of prior knowledge on. So, like, you might have to learn quickly going into a conference about the semiconductor industry in Taiwan.
Hmm.
So as I approached different stages of work, I would just read up or watch videos or just kind of drill down on as much information as I could get to specific trades, whether it's metal stud framing or electrical trades or the best practices for sound isolation within different units. So, and then I was able to find, luckily, a lot of very talented, sort of more trades people, a lot of really wonderful, Hispanic carpenters and plumbers and electricians. And I always just try to ask as many questions as possible and just learn. But there
Yeah,
was a lot of fire, sometimes fearfully, literally, and figuratively.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, when did you leave Wall Street?
So it was 2012, roughly around
Okay,
2012. So yeah.
okay,
And I started purchasing some properties like from '09 to '12. And then I finally
gotcha.
I sort of did half and half. And then I finally made the jump around 2012.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Where are you originally from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And so Wall Street brought you to New York?
Yeah, I got a job trading Latin American equities because I spoke Spanish and it was like a good fit. So,
Yeah,
which has subsequently helped me, with a lot of the more Hispanic workers and workforce. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
That's
it's
cool.
all about risk management, and I think there's so many overlaps between sort of financial analysis and contracting and building because it's constantly an evaluation of risks and what
Yeah,
risks you're willing to take, what's a smart risk, whether it's putting out a bid for a larger project, you're not exactly sure you can deliver it and sort of make margin, or how to sequence work, or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. How did you come up with the name Cooper? Where's that come from?
So Cooper was actually my yellow lab that I adopted. It was a soft adoption from Nantucket, and so
Okay,
he kind of
okay.
became the
I see the
mascot.
logo. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. He's over the rainbow now,
yeah. Okay, okay.
watching down. Yeah.
Um, so tell me, how did you get the word out? How did you get clients?
Well, so that's like, the number one challenge for, smaller type contractors, I think, is just getting on bidding lists and getting, going from working with 2 to 3 architects to working with 20 architects.
Hmm.
And initially, it was just word of mouth.
Yeah,
There was some outreach, some trade groups, and some networking meetings that I tried, but it was largely word of mouth, and I worked with just a few architects. And for a number of years, when from 2012 to sort of 2016, I was kind of doing this half Cooper development, more half Cooper build for other clients. 2016, I started to really sort of focus on the client facing business.
Build.
And for a couple of years, the revenues were sort of flattish, below somewhere hovering around $1 million, with not a lot of growth. And then probably 2 years ago, I figured out with some very talented people that work for me how to kind of harness search engine optimization techniques and
Amazing.
kind of put out sort of more of a digital footprint so that we get a lot more incoming kind of inquiries, which has really
Yeah,
changed the business.
that's so cool. That's so cool. I was just on your team and on your team page, uh, and you do what I do, and you have a distributed workforce around the world,
We
which is
do, and I think it's a
which
big
is really cool. It's
yeah.
really cool, isn't it? Talk to me about how did you discover that?
So I originally hired one offshore sort of assistant. I guess it was maybe 5 years ago, and
Hmm.
I found it to be very helpful, both in the work ethic, the communication, from a cost perspective, and it was really an eye opener because I had struggled with local kind of admin roles, local, even engineering, and a lot of skilled kind of managerial positions. And
Yeah,
so I think we've been very successful at filling a lot of roles from, as you said, a global workforce. So if someone
yeah,
is an engineer and they have a lot of structural engineering experience, and have a lot of concrete experience, I can bring them from, Europe or Asia or just about anywhere. And if they're the best candidate, we're agnostic as to where they are.
yeah. I feel the same exact way. I'm like, I actually don't care where you are or what time zone you're in,
Yeah,
as long as you can get the job done. And talent is talent. It doesn't matter. Like, and I think we live in a world now where for those that can harness talent wherever, regardless of time and space, are probably going to be the most competitive.
it's a
Obviously,
superpower.
it totally is a
Yeah,
superpower, and I've been trying to tell people for like a long time. Like, my team, you know, Mexico, Philippines, I have people all over the United States, but like to be able to harness that talent and the diversity and the perspective is really, um, it's really incredible. That's cool. So how what functions do you have sort of not near you? Like,
not as local as some other of our competitors.
yeah,
So we do a lot of estimating. We do a lot of sort of middle office project management. So like a lot of submittals, paperwork, shop drawings, uh, engineering, renderings, scheduling, financial control, budgeting. So it's quite a bit.
that's so cool. That's so cool. What platform do you use to manage that?
So
What do you which,
that's Steve. That's a great question because you can have like a talented workforce distributed wherever it is, but I've found that if they don't have the kind of guardrails and the sort of infrastructure to be successful,
it's a hot mess. It's a
a
hot
hot
mess, right?
mess. It's a hot
Yeah,
mess.
it's a hot mess. I know. I
And
know. Yeah.
I could speak for hours on trying to stay organized within a contracting business, which is effectively prototyping different products every single time.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question, we're in the process of basically building an in-house sort of a
Oh, wow.
SaaS system,
Yeah.
which has been a passion project and something that has really helped me sort of focus on the business in a different way. In other words, if you're going to try to build software around your business, you really have to understand every single process of the business and be able to
Mm.
quantify it, measure it, and sequence it to then explain it to developers. So
Yeah.
it's helped me kind of understand and think about the business in terms of process, which is not easy. You know, what is the best way to get materials to a job site? When should they come? How should they get
Yeah.
there? You know, what is the best way to order things?
Yeah.
What is the best way to budget certain items? Like all of these different questions dealing with procurement teams and project managers and allocating man hours to different
Yeah.
projects. So you really have
And
to kind of
seeing
think.
profitability based off of man hours, right? So that you're making sure that you stay in budget, out of budget.
Yeah.
Um, that's really interesting. I mean, I've that's a. I mean, I know that there's like all those like builder trend type things,
Yep.
I heard of someone most recently. I use Basecamp,
Uh-huh. I've
and
heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, and they use so the guy said he was like a $50 million custom home. He uses Basecamp, and I was like, oh, because there's like a balance between like high volume, low scope versus low volume, high scope, and depending on where you sit on the spectrum of like the types of projects that you do will
Yeah.
help dictate the type of soft. This is a problem that I think a lot about. Like, how do I manage projects and get everybody on the same team? And there are certain things like Slack. That's a great
Mhm.
communication tool, but it's not the best for project management, right?
Yeah.
And like, how do you stay out of your email to keep projects moving
Correct.
forward and like
Yeah.
get clients all on the same page, right? Like, it's but is your main client architects and other GCs or designers? Like, is that your main client, or do you work with individual?
So the New York City market, unlike I would say the majority of U.S. metropolitan markets, is that no one is. It's very unlikely that you're doing real work in a building, in a co-op building or a condo building in Manhattan, without a licensed architect involved in some capacity. So
Yeah.
typically, an architect would be our number one client. We have recently, I think, just based on our web efforts, we receive a lot more inquiries from end users,
Yeah.
and then we will pair them up with an internal or a designer, internal designer, or someone that we've worked with that we think would be a good fit for their project.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But we consider the architects and designers to be our primary clients, and we're just trying to make their lives as easy as possible.
As easy as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got you. I got you. What's been the most exciting project that you've worked on, or like something that you're super particularly proud of?
Well, that's a great question because they're all, every project before you start is seemingly simple. And then while you're on the project, it's always the most difficult project you've had. But we did a great project, which is sort of off brand, but we helped another contractor build out a Marine Corps, basically a weapons depot in Brooklyn to
Okay.
store weapons for the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yeah.
That involved a lot of engineering, concrete work. It was a lot of trades that we don't typically do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we always enjoy. I mean, I at least enjoy seeing the end of, even if it's a $1 million interior renovation of a couple of bathrooms and a kitchen, just seeing the end product, because some of the stuff that I don't personally make, but that our tradespeople are so talented at, can come up with. It's very satisfying.
Yeah. 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 How do you spend most of your time these days?
I'm basically working on calls and on our platform. Uh, so
Okay.
so I'm basically checking estimates before they go out and just sort of gut checking doing business development, whether it's taking initial calls with incoming architects, guiding junior project managers, and kind of what I'd like to say is just adding fire to projects, adding that energy to kind of push things through, because projects, especially longer duration ones, can have a tendency to kind of just get a little sclerotic. So,
Yeah.
so just adding that kind of extra fire is sort of necessary, and you got to really bring it.
It sounds like you love what you do.
I do. It's a different challenge every day. I mean, people often say to me, "Oh, you must like this a lot more than trading or portfolio management." And I would say that the one major difference, and the one thing that I definitely enjoy more, is that you're bringing a much broader scope of skills to the table. Whether it's dealing with humans who have different emotions and challenges in their life, or from a human resources perspective, to dealing with technology, which I think is a huge part of our business and has to become bigger, and to dealing with sort of disparate outcomes and try to narrow that from a process that is often tends to be chaotic in times. Construction,
Yeah,
if not managed properly, can have a disparate amount of outcomes. So, trying to manage that is pretty exciting.
that's cool. That's cool. So let's say you had to start over in 2024, right?
Yeah.
Same skills, same everything. How would you get back to at least monetization in the next 30 to 60 days? Like, what would you do?
So I think if I were going to start over tomorrow, I would. I've always been a little bit envious of these companies that do one specific thing over and over, and they're just so good at it. And then
Yeah,
I think I
your
would.
brain doesn't work like that, right?
No,
Yeah, I
uh,
know. I'm the same way. I
I,
know.
I go ahead.
Yeah. I know. I'm the same exact way. I'm very envious of people that could stay focused on one thing and then do it over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's a stair, they manufacture stairs and install, or they just do sort of cedar roofs or whatever it is, and they come in and they nail it. And I think I would build a marketing platform around them. And I think if I were starting over, which I kind of look at it, not that I'm starting over every day, but I'm trying to evolve and sort of move the business forward in the best way. I think the next kind of stage of my evolution is that I want to create kind of like semi-autonomous business groups within Cooper Build, and then kind of support them with infrastructure, whether it's capital, insurance, human resources, payroll compliance, estimating,
Mhm.
marketing, and sort of lead these sort of semi-autonomous teams, whether it's a glass installer who does shower glass and mirrors, or it's a cabinetry maker. And I kind of want to spin these groups off into their own sort of entrepreneurial units, so that they can feel kind of more empowered, and they can have a better sense of, it's just a little bit more autonomy, and feel the excitement of being an entrepreneur. Because in the finance world, your base salary is just a small percentage of your overall compensation, whereas
Yeah.
most of the workers, sort of in the trades that are hourly workers, they're just hourly employees. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I don't think it's ideal for them, nor for the business owner. And sort of coming up with a process to kind of give them some upside in a systematic way has been something that I'm really trying to focus on.
That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, almost like a Cooper built holdco, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, where your back office, you provide the infrastructure, the runway, the air cover for other people to thrive underneath. And
Right, which is
um,
such an enjoyable thing to see as people develop more skills and get better. And I mean, that's half the fun of running your own business.
that's cool. Very cool. All right. So this is a part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that you'd like to think through or help brainstorm while we're on the call?
Well, Oh, I mean, I would say, well, my first question would be in terms of marketing outreach for a contractor to get it's such a long lead sales cycle
Yeah.
to get these architects that are established. You know, they're significant, they're real players, they're working at a very high level. How to
Yeah.
get in with them without having any sort of connection.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot about that. And I think, so I have a guy that I work with, like a advisor, and he's like this wealthy people whisperer, right? And so like all his phone and his contact lists are, millionaires and billionaires. And he keeps beating into my head that the currency of the wealthy, as you know, is relationships,
yeah.
right? That's their currency. And they price is irrelevant because it's all about how much value and the strength of the relationships. And
Yep.
so for me, I think a lot about how does Cooper Build or Cooper Development be in a space where you're not trying to compete like everybody else getting calls, and how when they see your number or you're on texting relationships with these folks, that you are very top of mind. And
Right.
so how do you the question then is, how do you cultivate a relationship with those people in an organic way that in which you can become friends? Because you actually don't need 20 people. You probably, if you had 10 amazing banger
Art,
architects,
you
then
you're
that's a gajillion. That's like,
busy. You're
that's
just
a big business,
you're making a very nice living for sure.
a very nice living. So
Yeah.
for me, I like to look at, like, again, I would make a list of the Dream 100. You've heard of Chet Holmes, and like, and you could probably, I mean, you know how to leverage VAs. You know how to leverage VAs. I would build a crazy spreadsheet, and of those 50 people, find out everything around them.
Yeah.
Use Chat GPT to summarize everything about the people. Maybe you start with 50 or 100, whatever, right? And then if there's a charity that they are a co-chair on, you show up.
Right.
If there's a um if there's a and it's usually like a social thing. If you can show up where they are, or find out who is the person or what is the thing so if they're into Porsches, or if they're into equestrian, if they're into whatever, if you can figure out how to intersect with
Right.
them, that would probably be the biggest thing. The other thing too is that you can leverage content, right? Like content where you can profile them and profile their, or like nominate them for something. Like create an environment in which you could be their friend and add so much value to them. But it really just starts with that list. If you can look at that list and figure out what boards they sit on, what charities they're on, where do they spend their time? I know you spend time in the Hamptons, right? Like, and if they are friends with a realtor, or if they are friends with whatever, I mean, even if you spend like 3 months doing this, it would like, it would, and the Dream 100 is, you send something in the mail, you uh, phone, email, send something in the mail, and then you just kind of repeat,
Right.
repeat, repeat. And then what you can do too is, those people, they're not on Instagram, nor are they on Facebook. If they are, they're on LinkedIn or in these private circles where top tier architects are.
Right.
But if you create the same level of intention that you do with your content on your social media, if you did that at a higher level, solving their problems using content and insights, they're gonna pop. Like, even if you go to their if you go to their LinkedIn and you friend every single one of their friends,
Right.
and then a lot of them too, they don't really have big Instagram
Yeah.
followings at all
Yeah.
because they're like older and they're not in,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? They don't really need to be on
Right.
Instagram to make money.
Right. They don't need it.
But if you follow them on Instagram and you engage with
Yeah.
them from Cooper Build, oh my God.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah. No, definitely. And especially like data mining around your client, your leads or your prospects, like you said, like find out as much as you can about them and try to angle them and, you know, come at them at a few different ways. I mean, there's one
Yeah.
company that they do like 400 million in sales, and the head guy who does business development, he's on like every charity event for museums and the, you know, the
Yeah.
opera and
Yeah.
the Met and this and that, and he's just hobnobbing with big real estate owners and architects.
Yeah.
It's
I mentioned this to somebody before. They were a millwork company, but I like the second time I said it, I was like, there's probably a crazy workflow that around this system. And you can probably leverage AI and VAs in order to build where you wake up and you almost have like a almost like a dashboard. It's like, these are my targets. This is how I'm going to interact with them today.
Yep.
Like nothing's by design, nothing's by accident, right? Like success is not by accident. You know, it's planned, right? It has to be planned.
Daily grind.
A daily grind.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Tell everybody your website.
So my website is cooperbuild.com, and
Yep.
it's where you can find us. You can see some of our work and reach out if you're looking to possibly work with us as a sort of a tradesperson or a subcontractor, a partner, or as a designer architect.
Cool. Thank you so much, Adam, for your
You're
time.
welcome, Steve. It's good to be here. Good to meet you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.